The Hog That Dare Not Hunt by Day by Scott Odell, Chapter 35. We made a quick turnaround in London. The first morning we sold all of our Venetian glass at a handsome profit to the Duke of Woolton, and by noon had disposed of our casks of Spanish oil. Straight off, I went to see Master Carswell at Clink Prison, paying him more than 100% for his profit in the venture. He was speechless with surprise, since he had expected not more than a third of that amount, and immediately wanted to reinvest half his gains in our next voyage. I don't know what our next voyage will be, I told him. I'd advise you, therefore, to hold your gains until we have something with definite prospects, perhaps 4 or 5 weeks from now. We talked for an hour, or at least he did, and when he had unwound, I asked him if he had heard anything about Henry Phillips. As you know, he went as far as Seville with us, I said. Then we picked him up and left him in Antwerp. That was 3 days ago. The Emperor was in Seville, and I think that Phillips had an audience with him. I can assure you that he did, Carswell said, counting for the second time the gold ducats that I had given him, laying them out one by one on the table, then stacking them in one pile, and then starting the process all over again. They met 3 times in as many days, and their talk was mostly about Tyndale. The Emperor is determined to catch him. And Henry Phillips is the agent chosen to do so? There are dozens of agents, as you know, but Phillips has met Tyndale sometime in the past. Perhaps when they were at Oxford. Anyway, Tyndale knows Phillips and for some reason likes him. What of Belsey? I asked. Is he mixed up in it in any way? Has he been, or is he now? Only as a servant, as a go-between for Phillips. It was Phillips who got Belsey his job as a searcher. They work together in all things, but Belsey is here, and Phillips is across the channel. I left Carswell counting his Spanish ducats and went to the ship. The hold was half filled with wool, and there was more to come the next day, according to Belsey, who was supervising the work. Belsey and I had talked several times since I had arrived the previous evening, but not once had he mentioned the name of Henry Phillips. It struck me as odd, so odd that I concluded that Belsey knew where Phillips was and what he was doing. There was no need for him to ask me. I was convinced of this when Belsey informed me that the ship was cleared for Hamburg and would be ready to sail the following night, provided that the wool arrived as promised. I was planning on Antwerp, I said. I have 2 orders there, both of them subject to spoilage and both with merchants who depend upon me. Belsey's face flushed. Only the scar around his mouth showed white. You can go to Antwerp after Hamburg, he said. The Hamburg order is equally important. He spoke in a tone that he had not used with me since the day that he had threatened to seize the ship, unless I agreed to the contract that he had prepared. It was a chilling memory. Our talk took place at mess time. Shortly afterward, Belsey left the ship. He was gone past the hour of 11 when the tide began to set. When it did set, with the ship half loaded and the hatches open, we slipped our mooring. With Ed Grote and Juan de Palos and 2 men as crew, I headed downstream on the swift-running current under a hopeful new moon. I sailed straight to Antwerp, but arrived there 2 days late because of a severe thunderstorm. I went to see James Curtis at once, though it was past midnight, and routed him out of bed. He had not seen Phillips, he told me, as he stood shivering in his nightshirt and stocking cap, nor heard from William Tyndale. The hour was advanced, but I went to the loft where the English dissenters lived. Stumbling over bodies in the dark where only a small cresset burned, I finally located Sarah Williams. She must have been there waiting for me, for she was fully clothed and instantly jumped to her feet. It was a bitter night. We stood by the smoldering cresset, both of us too cold to talk easily, doing little more than mumble our words. Tyndale is here, she said, here in Antwerp. He's living at the house of Thomas Poyntz, an English friend. He's been here now for almost 2 months. He rarely goes out, I am told, and then only for a short while, and usually at night. Where does Poyntz live? I asked her. near the adventurers. Have you seen Phillips, I said, or heard of him? Neither one nor the other. We parted, and I had to wait until the next afternoon to locate Points. He lived in a large house on a quiet street, which he kept for the members of the English Merchant Adventurers Company. At first, he denied that he knew Tyndale. I've heard the name is all, he said. You know who he is, however. Yes. You know that he is being sought? By whom? The emperor, the king, and by 100 agents. Aren't you fearful of losing your own life if he's found living here in your house? This remark helped some, and piece by piece I assured him that I was Tyndale's friend. I carried his first Bible into London, I said. The first. Your name, he said at last, is Tom Barton, and Tyndale has spoken of you. You are in danger. I am in danger, and Tyndale's in danger. Tyndale above all, I said. What's to be done at this hour? Tyndale must flee to Hamburg or Wittenberg or Worms or Mainz. Anywhere. There's no protection for him here. Margaret of Austria is the emperor's regent. She is the law in the Low Countries. What he wants done, she must do, and he wants Tyndale captured. Tyndale's weary of flight. He has fled now for years, from Cockall to garret, from barn to cellar, from town to city to village, never knowing 1 hour of peace or a sense of safety. The fleeing has been for nothing if he stays here in Antwerp. How long has he been with you? Thomas Points was a well-fleshed man with an eater's round stomach. For almost 2 months, but very quietly, Points said. He never goes on the street during the day. He does not parade himself. If the Procurator General and his sheriffs were to come today, I said, with a writ from the Regent Margaret and search out your house, would they find evidence of him there? Would they find his clothes, his books, his letters? Yes, he's not that well hidden. Then, in God's name, he must leave the house. He's been here now for 2 months and in safety, but not with Henry Phillips in the city. Phillips has been in Antwerp several times in the last year. He is, in fact, a friend of Tyndale's. They have a common interest in the Bible. They talk together. They sometimes eat together. They go sometimes at night together to walk in the streets. I could not believe what I had just heard. Tyndale and Phillips friends? I described Phillips to Points, his fair countenance, his manner of speaking, his way of dressing. I could not believe we were talking about the same man. You describe the Henry Phillips that I have met, Points said, and know well. And this man is a friend of William Tyndale's? A friend, Points said, seemingly annoyed that I had raised the question. A close friend. End of chapter 35.